All right. Yeah, that went about halfway up the scale at the fair, but that's all. Welcome to the July 27th meeting of the Rotary Club of South Jacksonville. For our Zoom members, there they are. We're happy you can join us. Please remember to mute yourself and submit any questions or comments via chat, or unmute yourself and let us hear from you. You've got a choice. Greetings from our new home here at the DoubleTree Hotel. Great to see so many people with us today, in person and on Zoom. Thank you to our greeter, Leslie Redd, and the prayer and pledge today will be given by Julia Kalinsky.
Thank you, President Richard. Let's start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under
God, indivisible,
liberty and justice.
Let's bow our heads. Lord, make us the instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. And family time now comes to us, courtesy of Christy King.
I'll start with birthdays. It's past President Beebor's birthday today, so happy birthday, Pete. And Lynn Bauman and Ryan Goltry both have birthdays on July 30th. For wedding anniversaries, Mike Shuey is celebrating 26 years of marriage on July 29th. And Rick Morales is celebrating 31 years with Rotary, a member anniversary on July 31st.
All right. Thank you. We have a couple of announcements. Bob Massey, the review of our Saturday project with Northwest Jacksonville Club.
Thank you, Mr. President. Wow, what a fun day we had. Well, not quite a full day, but a good day at Northwest Legends Elementary. Participation from this club included our illustrious President Richard Dow, President-elect Charlie Coper, Barry Covington was there, Rich Cooper, our district governor, Brendan was there. I'm missing somebody. Mike Dare, of course, Mike Dare, past district governor Mike Dare. But Rich Cooper made a special, our district governor made a special appearance as well. When we arrived, there was a huge, I mean, huge mountain of mulch. And I knew that my plans to spend a lot of time in the indoors and air conditioning was not going to happen. Okay. 80 yards of mulch. 80 yards. And we might have moved 20 or 30. 10. But, you know. Anyway, it's always good to be in the presence of Rotarians serving, and this is no exception. It was a wonderful day. It wasn't too hot until maybe about 12:30. I was like about to expire, and my back was telling me you got to quit. But we made some significant progress on the landscape and mulching around the front of the school, and we also made some significant progress organizing the music and art groups. So this is a relationship that the Rotary Club of Northwest Jacksonville will continue for a long time. They have officially adopted the Northwest Legends Elementary School. So this is a relationship we expect will last a long time. But thank you for those who attended. For those who were not able to do so, there will be other opportunities to engage with this new Rotary Club and this school. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Mike Darrow, can we hear about the dental project and our tear down?
Yeah, so we were asked to help with the dental clinic. Rick Mullins, who was one of our members that set this up long ago, I didn't realize Rick was 20 years as a dentist, because he's been, he helped start this. And what it is once a year, dentists from around the area come together. They put together in the Prime Osborne Center 70 different booths for the dentist. And so when somebody walks in who hasn't had dental care, you know, they just had a constant ache, they give them a checkup, and then if they've got to do anything up to a root canal, they do that. So it's pretty cool, because when I found out, not only was Rick doing that, but I asked Bruce Mattern if he wanted to help, and his comment was, well, I'm the medical person that's gonna be there for anything else that pops up. So it is really cool. 70 dentists are doing this. So they asked us to do what we do our best, which is tear stuff up. So at 4 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, if you can, please let me know, and let me know your shirt size so you actually get a shirt out of it. But we need to hit it hard and just wipe it out, because they do it on an extremely tight budget, and if they're not out, they gotta pay more. They try months at a time. So it's not a question. They gotta have a team like us that are used to tearing stuff up. So in tearing stuff up, so it can be used again. So if you can help, please text me or email me. All my stuff's in DACD, or just talk to me and I'll give you a card and then help me remember and I'll get you signed up. Thank you very much. We've got right now about, we've got 6 Rotaractors. We've got about 13 from our club and 1 or 2 from outside. And by the way, great way to bring in somebody to see what Rotary is. So if you've got somebody who'd like to have help us, that'd be great. Call me and we'll befriend them and work them hard. Yes.
Should we bring hand trucks or platforms?
I will send out something about what other things they said, like rubber mallets. I hadn't thought about that to knock things apart. I was gonna bring a 20-pound sled, but they suggested no. But I will send something out to all the people that have signed up to let you know what to bring. And Charlie asked a very good question. Can we wear shorts? Because during the normal time, it's dentists wanting to look like dentists. But we're gonna be there to tear stuff apart. So I'll find out and also let you know how to dress.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you for putting this together. Now, a moment of instruction from Lisa Marie Winslow, who will tell us about DACDB and how to use it.
I'm ready.
All right. So which one do you bring first? All right. Good afternoon, everyone. How are you? So we're doing a little instruction on DACDB today in an effort to let you know about all the resources that are available to you electronically. When you're looking for what that thing is, DACDB just has so much information. So we're first going to start with our RSVP to our luncheons. That's the way that Patty and President Richard are able to know how many members are going to be attending our lunch club. So in an effort to do that, you go to the calendar. So good. Patty's outside going away. You go to the calendar and you can see the RSVP here. See, this is our luncheon. So you'll see it on the calendar and you just hit RSVP and it brings up this sheet. This sheet then allows you to respond, has your member name already in there. Then you indicate whether you're attending. And then if you are attending, whether or not you will be in person or on Zoom. So that piece is really important because that's the way we get our numbers for lunch. And then you just hit submit. It's really, really simple.
If you have a guest, you can put it in the comments.
Yes, and you can, if you have a guest, you can put it in the comment section. Thank you. And then the other way is in the email that Patty sends out every week. It's also in our newsletter. She'll usually send a reminder, so that RSVP link takes you to the same sheet that records your ability to attend the lunch meeting. And if anybody ever has any problems with DACDB or wants to know something about it, I'm happy help you. I've learned so much from Patty, and I'm happy to help and learn some more. The other area I would like to share with everybody in DAC-DB, we had this conversation recently with regards to in our membership meeting. As you know, we are focused on building our membership this year. And one of the things that we collectively need to do a better job is knowing who the potential members that we are looking at coming into the club. And so when we go to my club, if you look, and Patty, probably not, you don't need to go to the actual potential members list. You'll see here, there's these tabs across. Potential members will then give you a list of members that we are looking to consider, and there's information about those members. So if nothing else, it gives you an existing member an idea of who is looking at membership or who we're looking at for membership. And then you can get to know that person maybe a little bit better, and you'll know their names before coming to the meeting or events. And this will help you in navigating who the members are that we're looking at to bring into the club. It's a really great little thing. I know I have enjoyed the tech. Mike, did you have a question?
Well, I was curious about two things. One is Patty has ESP, so I'm going to ask a question about a previous screen, and we're going to see
Sure.
if she can intuit what is your brainwave.
All right.
Somebody at our table said, whoop, how did you get there when you first came on and then said, here's where you go?
Okay.
So
DAC-DB.
what's that first place where you land and how do you get places from there?
Great. So two things. So in order to, are we asking the question about getting into DAC-DB first? Is that
So
the
that's where
question?
you land when you sign in?
When you sign in, you come into home actually, and then you click on the My Club
So
page.
that's
So
home.
this is home. So when you
Okay.
log into DAC-DB, this is the first page that you're going to see.
Scroll up that picture to
show
the
Oh, yeah. I don't mind scrolling down so you can see the
It's
mountain.
taller than you got.
And then the My Club is up there on the tabs on top. Is that it?
About a half mile
And that's where you get to those other things.
Exactly.
Oh, okay.
Good.
That makes sense.
Well, start from, how do you get to there? I mean, you go into rotary.com or?
You
what?
go to DAC-DB. Patty, you want to go all the way out to DAC-DB to the login?
First you gotta power up.
It means district and
I never heard of that one.
Thank you. I don't know that everybody heard, but it is district and club database. That's what DAC-DB stands for.
Okay.
And we just use the acronym of that.
So
So
that's
this
where you
is,
sign.
so it's DACDB.com. That's where you go to log in to all of this information. And it's really easy. It's your email address. It's already set up. The password, what do we default to, Patty, on the password?
Everybody, it's your Rotary International member.
Oh, great.
Patty can always help you with that.
It's on your mag.
It's on the line.
On your mag.
And then you don't have to put in a club number. You don't have to put a club number in there. You can leave that blank. And then you hit log in, and then you go to that home page, hit log in. And then you're back at that home page. And then we'll go back to my club. I know there was somebody wanted to see some pictures there. Patty has much more access than we all do, so ignore what you're seeing. Patty, would you go back to our front club page first? So we can see the mound of a mulch down there in that picture. There we go. See the mound of
That
mulch?
doesn't justice. We gotta stand next to it.
And then again, back up to my club, and you'll go to calendar,
Where's calendar on there? Oh, it's right there.
and it says calendar. It looks like a little calendar, and it says calendar. And then as you scroll down, you will see our meeting, our lunch meeting, and then you just hit RSVP.
So Casey asked for next time you're gonna do this, you let him know, that way he'll bring his granddaughter so he has text.
Absolutely, or you can just call. I'm happy to help. Happy to help. Any other questions, Barry?
A suggestion, not a question. Suggestion is, if
you go into this and you look up the members, it's a great place to just scan down the member roll here. Not that everybody here doesn't, of course, know each person here intimately, but you know, partners and all the rest of it too. But that's really a handy tool. The second thing is, since you get a couple of emails a week with an RSVP link there, I'm assuming there's no chance of double counting that.
No, because the name, Patty looks at all of that, so, you really will only have one, and if by chance you end up having two, she knows that there's not two very.
With my memory, I may not know that I punched it yesterday.
She'll know, she's good. She's that good. But this is what Barry was talking about. So you get these cards on everybody, gives you their basic information. And then if you go into a member individually, you're gonna find more information about them. It's that information that we provided when we became members. Want to click in one? So there's Greg. Current picture, which is nice, good to see. Well, it's better than some of ours. So, and there's information about what sector and all of that. So it is good information to Barry's point about learning about our fellow members. So, any other questions? All right, President Richard, I will turn it back over to you. Thank you, Patty, for the support.
Another announcement? Oh, okay, that's that. If you have not been contacted about participating on a committee, which I find highly unlikely, but I know that there are some of you, please let me know your interests, and I will happily direct you to the committee chair of your choice. And that position for you may or may not involve mulch or a sledgehammer. You never know. Monica Barrett, will you introduce our visitors and guests today? Thank you.
We only have one visitor today, and she's Steve Madden's guest, Grace De La Rosa. Would you stand up, please? She's with Living with Grace. Here we go.
We here in Rotary welcome you today. So glad you came along, glad you came our way. Our hand of fellowship is yours, sunshine or in rain. We here in Rotary say welcome, come again. Welcome, Terrance.
And now I give you Bob Massey, who will introduce our guests for the day.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is indeed a pleasure for me to introduce my friend, Terrance Freeman. Many of you recall that I introduced Councilman Freeman about a little over a year ago, I think, as the newest member of the Rotary Club of Southjax. It was by Zoom, and I don't really like Zoom very much. I'd have much rather pat him on the back, give him a big hug, and welcome him into the Rotary that way, but it wasn't to be. My introduction then mentioned his successful professional baseball career as a player, coach, and scout. His bachelor and master's degree in physical education and sports psychology. Spending over 10 years as a teacher, a school administrator, and as coach. Serving the Jacksonville Chamber of Commerce. Sitting on the Duval County Elections Advisory Panel. Serving as an at-large member of the Jacksonville City Council. His calling to engage with the youth of our community. His involvement in team and private instruction in baseball and softball. I'm sure he's had a lot of changes in his life since that introduction, but I want to highlight three. First, Terrance has been very instrumental in the startup of the Rotary Club of Northwest Jacksonville, which y'all have heard much about already. He will soon be an official charter member of that Rotary Club, of which there will be over 25 members. Congratulations and thank you for your help. Second, and I think what he's going to speak on today, Terrance has a new mission as of April of this year as the CEO of Read USA. Read USA opens pathways for children in under-resourced communities with book choice and ownership, peer-to-peer tutoring, multicultural literacy programming, and collaborative strategic partnerships toward grade level reading proficiency, workforce development, social justice, and ending the cycle of generational poverty. My guess is he won't have a chance to touch on all of that today. Quite a mission. Third, as of the beginning of this month, and maybe most of you are aware, Terrance is the vice president, now the vice president of the Jacksonville City Council, which is typically a lead into becoming the president the following year. I had the pleasure of attending his induction ceremony of Council President Sam Newby and Terrance, and I was deeply moved by the event. I really was. There was a clear dedication by these two men to a higher power, and an enthusiasm by the existing council and others in attendance for the leadership by two men who are Black. I believe that we should all be excited to live in such a city that has recognized and chosen these two men as leaders. I believe that we'll look back on that event as a red letter day in our city, and I want you to help me welcome City Council Vice President Terrance Freeman.
Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to stand before you. I'm not usually the guy that stands behind the podium, so it's all right if every now and then I get from behind it and walk around a little bit. But love the introduction, and I'm always flattered when I hear, I should say, the things that I've accomplished in a very short period. And the reason why I should say I'm flattered, it's not the best choice of words, is because when this journey started, and I'm going to share the story with you, a lot of those things that he mentioned, they weren't the end goal for me. For me, there was a calling in my life to go out and seek to be the voice of those whose voices have been silent for so long. See, I grew up the son of a pastor, military, so I had a lot of structure in my life. Pastor the church, very small church. There are more people in this room that attended our church regularly. And the son of my mother was a social worker, career social worker. So I like to share with folks that we grew up between poor and middle class. And if you don't know what that means, it means you have everything you need, not everything you want. If that doesn't register with you, I can share with you that, and I always start my talks with conversations with community leaders by introducing my family, and just in case they're watching this, but my beautiful bride, Rachel, who's an educator going on her 14th year, all in Title I schools. That is her calling in life. Together we have 4 amazing daughters. My little Evie, she's 13. Don't get too old. My Taryn, and Evie's my twin. My Taryn, she's my hugger. She's 11. My Patricia, she's 9. She is my daughter that learns differently, just like her father. And we are growing through this together. And she's understanding that she's going to be great in spite of. And then my baby, Lindy, who just turned 7 on the 21st of July. And we're praying that she stays young as long as possible. And those girls are my wife. But my mom, as a social worker, we grew up between poor and middle class. And the example I like to give people is this. Those 4 girls that I just shared with you, my family, they look forward to December 25th every year. And yes, it's a big holiday beyond the gifts, but they look forward to it because they know that they're going to get so many things from family and friends and mom and dad and Santa and all those good things. For me, I didn't have that experience. And the reason was, and it's not that I want anyone to feel sorry for me, but in October, my mom would take us to a store and say, pick out your big item. And we pick out our bicycles and we'd be so excited. That was almost Christmas for my brother and I. But little did we understand back then that we never left with the gift. But I found out later in life that my mom would go and put a little bit down, and then a little more the next month, and a little more the next month. And then come December 25th, the bike that I already knew I had, I finally got to ride and pretend like it was And Santa brought it. So, but so Christmas had a different meaning for me when it comes to those gifts. But it took me to a story as we were doing life, and I get to high school, and at the age of 15, my mom comes to me, and my mom was the oldest sibling, and she took everyone into our house. And in this particular season of life, my grandmother was living with us. She was transitioning on to the next stage. And she comes to me and she says, Terrance, I can't afford to send you to college. And I say, yes, ma'am. And I'm a yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, no, ma'am kind of guy. And so my daughter. And she said, your brother, he lost his scholarship at that school in Gainesville. And we can't afford to keep him there and pay for you. And taking on the expenses of your grandmother living with us, I need you to figure out something. And so I met a fork in the road because growing up between poor and middle class, I grew up in a community where, man, there were a lot of folks that didn't always make the best decisions and might have had encounters with the judge here. And one of them being my oldest brother, who went on vacation for several years. And I can remember vacation is the code word for prison, okay? And I can remember when he'd call collect and I'd answer and he'd always tell me, don't be like me. I was a great athlete. You don't want to end up like this. And those words would just resonate in my head. And so I can remember in high school, my mom coming to me, and now I'm going to school with my cousin, who she brought in as well, who was the biggest drug dealer in a suburban school. So I'm surrounded by all these challenges. I got a mom telling me she can't afford to send me to college, and I got to figure something out. Well, I realized that I could run faster than most, jump higher than most, and school wasn't always easy for me, but if I worked my tail off, I seemed to get good grades. And so I decided to go that route of let's try this sports route, because your brother told you how it ends, and you know how that story ends on that side. Let's go this sports route and then make the best grades you can. And I often share with kids my formula for making great grades. I won't share it with you all here because it'll bore you. But at the completion of my senior year, I was fortunate enough to earn an academic scholarship to any historical Black college in the nation, 100%, and 75% to any state school. So it's like, okay, check the box. And I'll never forget the tears running down my mom's eyes saying, you did it. And then all of a sudden I did one thing in front of one baseball scout that changed my life. And when this story ends, it's going to end with Reed, and it's going to end with this apron. But everyone came to see this. I was 127 pounds soaking wet when I graduated from high school. And this pro scout came to see this big lefty pitcher that was throwing 90 miles an hour. And here it is, this little guy that gets up to the plate, really didn't have a clue what he's doing. Baseball wasn't my sport. I was a basketball guy, dunking at 5'5". I shot 3-pointers. My ball's going sideways, but I didn't care. I was going to the Spud Webb had me thinking I was going to the NBA. But this pitcher throws this fastball that I barely could see, and I close my eyes and swing like I did often when I played in high school, and I made contact, and I hit the ball right back to him. And he's like, all right, easy out. So he takes it, pats his glove twice, he lobs it to first base, and right as that ball is entering the glove, my foot hit the bag. Now, I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, all right, whatever. So I get on and I do the base running thing, which is kind of a funny story. I led the state in stolen bases. I didn't know how to slide. So I'd always run and just jump with 2 feet forward, and my head would hit the ground. But at the end of the game, this scout runs over to me and he shows me the stopwatch and he says, young man, do you know what this means? I said, no, sir. And he says, look at the time on it. Okay. He says, did you know that the major league average is 4.2 seconds now? And now it's 4.3 seconds. Still means nothing to me. He says, look at your time. You ran a 3.85 on a ground ball that you knew you were going to be out on. He said, I've scouted for years. I've never seen this before. Why did you do it? And my response was simply, why not? See, my father taught me that everything you do it with everything you have. So I ended up getting drafted by the California Angels that year, changed the trajectory of my life. Instead of going to FAMU to be a doctor, I'm at a community college playing baseball. And then I played professional baseball for 6 years. And as Martha and I were sharing earlier, I got to see 35 different states, 5 countries. I got to see parts of America that I'd only seen in a book. I gained an appreciation for cultures, for ethnicities that I'd never been exposed to. And so I'm so empowered now and so excited now to get out and try to share this opportunity for our youth to read. So I get injured, I retire after 6 years, and I land here in Jacksonville. Get my degree at University of North Florida in education, and then I go on to Eagles View Academy, become an athletic director. Got a great life, continue in school, become a principal. Got the best life now. I have no worries in life. I'm in a small Christian school. I'm the principal. All my daughters get to go here for free. Let's just do life and coast on to the end, Terrance. But all of a sudden, God started troubling something in my stomach. And I'd wake up every day and I'm like, man, I'm not doing everything on purpose. I've answered my calling, which is to go into service, just like I saw my mom and my dad do, because they never woke up, never saw them upset about having to go out and serve. But I had this uneasy feeling, and I'll never forget at this school, which was very politically charged. I learned later in life, but at that time, Councilman Ronnie Fussell, his son was one of our star basketball players. And I went to him and I said, I see you on TV every day. You have to be somebody important. What do you do? I'm letting you know a secret. I didn't know what a city councilman was back then. And he says, oh, absolutely. I help a lot of people. And I'm like, I want to help more kids. How can I help more kids? And we had a conversation. He says, well, call me next week if you're serious about it. We'll have lunch. And I called him and we went and had lunch. And I can still tell you to this day, he had Salisbury steak with green beans and mashed potatoes with gravy at Bill's Diner. That day was just so impactful for me. But that brought me into the downtown and wanted to serve kids. And it was just 2 occurrences. And I'll share them. And then I'm going to talk about reading. I'm done. One story is this young lady, young girl, younger than the age of 8, sitting in her house out east, watching TV, minding her own business. And all of a sudden, some jerks outside of her house, and some kids just with nothing on, just idle minds, they get into a tussle. And now, like most kids who are making these bad decisions do, instead of wrestling and brushing the dirt off, they pull out a weapon and they fire a bullet. And unfortunately, that bullet had that young girl's name on it. Took her life. Kind of devastating. No, not kind of, it did. Fast forward a couple years later, you got a 15-year-old young man standing outside a Grand Park swimming pool, waiting on whatever he's waiting on. I don't care what the stories may come around it. I don't know all the details, but I know this young man was standing there. Something else happens again, and a bullet with his name comes on him, takes his life. And that was my tipping point. I can do something about this. And that's what I started realizing was my purpose. God purposed me. He preserved me from drugs and all these other distractions that could have captured me, to stand before groups like this today and to stand before you and share with them that there's hope. That there's hope. And I am so fortunate, as he shared with the city council piece, I got an opportunity. I was appointed by Governor Scott. I got an opportunity to represent a part of our city that would have never elected me, based off of just a R or a D. But after a year of serving that community, 30% of that community voted for me in an at-large race several months later. Matter of fact, almost 30% voted for me citywide. It's never been done before by a conservative. And I don't share that as something to say, well, pat me on the back. I share it to say this. When you go and ask those residents who are still calling me today to help, why did you support Mr. Freeman? First, you yelled at him, 200 people in the room yelling and screaming. And I understood it. And I wore my best suit, wore my cowboy boots, and I just stood there and I was just trying not to flinch. Had one elderly gentleman call me the N-word. I mean, they just did everything they could. Everyone was Black in the room. But what they didn't realize was that I had a pen and paper and my assistant was writing down every concern. That was on a Thursday, 7 days after being appointed. And then on Friday morning at 8 o'clock, I started picking up the phone and calling each and every person that spoke and checking off their concerns. And so when it came to that election season, they said, you know what? When we called, you answered. When we asked you to come out, you came out. You actually became a part of our community. And it was something that we hadn't experienced in years previous. And we don't want to lose you. And so when I ran citywide, it brings me to read, is a chance to serve our whole city and be a voice for many people in our community whose voices have been silenced. So if you take care of kids, you take care of seniors, those bookends, you take care of everybody in the middle. Read USA, we're an organization, 10th year, first year with staff. I am the first paid staffer full-time for Read USA. And he shared the mission. And what I love is, if you have, anybody have any kids in Duval County schools in here? Or grandkids? Absolutely. So we started off by giving books to every kid in Title I school. They got to choose 3 books of their own. I'll give you some data, 3 more minutes. I'm a preacher, so we close 3 times. I'm a preacher's kid, so we close 3 times, all right? So that was my first closing. But so the data says this, 67% of elementary students in the state of Florida, when they completed 3rd grade, were reading below the rate of proficiency. In Duval County, of that 67%, 80% of them are from our marginalized communities, with 2/3 of them ending up in jail or on poverty. So this literacy piece is something that once it hit my soul, I was like, man, I have missed the mark. Because I had a brief stint between being a principal and I walked away from it to go serve kids where I was at the chamber. And I thought, man, the best way I can help kids is to help their parents get jobs. So I was job focused, job. but I never once thought, man, can this kid read the application? So it changed my life. So now we know that if a kid chooses a book and he takes that book, he or she takes that book home, she's most likely to read it. So we give the students 3 choices of books that they can take. I mean, they get to take 3 of their own. There are numerous books for their home personal libraries, from BPK all the way through 5th grade. It's one of our programs. I visited so many schools that I would overhear the kids behind the mask and see the smiles. One kid said, I've always wanted this book. Man, that brought me so much joy, because I was that kid that had maybe 75 cents in my pocket. I'm in a suburban school where most had what they wanted. And all of a sudden I'm scraping up my pennies to buy an eraser so I can say I left with something. Although I wanted the book, I couldn't afford it. So to know that these kids, that is not a barrier. And then our next program, which, you know, I was like kids, I gave you my 4 daughters. I never said one was my favorite, right? But this is my favorite program that we offer, and I'm done. It is our one-to-one peer-to-peer mentoring tutoring program, because we take urban teens in the same feeder system with the elementary school. We pair them with a struggling elementary reader. And we had our pilot program in 2019. We just completed our program this year. And in 2019, what the data revealed was this: not only did the struggling elementary student have gains in literacy, but the teen did as well. Man, that brought such a smile to my face, because here's the deal. The data supported something else that we saw happen. That little struggling elementary kid, that their self-esteem is not where it needs to be because they walk out to a circumstance in the world that tells them they're destined to be a failure. All of a sudden they have this teen in front of them that's like, man, you are somebody, you're important enough to me that I show up every day to help you read. They have a role model. This teen who is someone that's like, man, I struggle reading a little bit as well, a little insecure in their own selves. They now have a little one that looks up to them that says, you are my rock star. It's the bond between the two that's so powerful. And when you want to close it out, we pay the teens. Nothing brings me greater joy than that. Nothing brings me great. And as we move forward, each team's going to look to get $15 an hour. I'll probably say it. I'll probably say that. And I'm so excited about it, because that team could be in the same scenario that I was in, and I'll land with it. That fork in the road, can't afford for you to go to college, need you to find a way to make money. My mom was not telling me to go sell drugs. I knew that, but that distraction was there. So I would offer to any of you in this room, if you ever want to learn more about Read USA, we have our big event coming up October 1st, Peace in the Pages. We have Audrey Moran and Kevin Gay, our honorary sponsors, hosts for the committee. And this is our largest fundraiser. We gave out over 250,000 books last year. My goal is to do more. My goal is to continue to grow this program to where we're tutoring not only in 5 weeks in the summer, but every day after school, partnering with YMCA, Boys and Girls Club, communities and schools. Partnerships matter. Partnering with great organizations like you all to help us get the books out and get them to the locations of need. So I will close with thank you for your time. This apron, and I wear it every time I speak, because when you see someone wearing an apron, the first thing you automatically think is service. And that's what we're in the business for. And that is my purpose for being on the service. So thank you so much for your time, and would love to take any questions. I'm gonna go behind the podium as my little protection. All right, bring it on.
I assume you get cooperation from the Duval County School Board. How does that work?
Yes, sir. We have a partnership with Duval County Schools, and they actually asked us to come in and serve every school. We started off with 81 schools, just all of the Title I schools. And they started showing us the demographic that there are kids that would qualify to be Title I sitting in some other schools and areas, but there's not a number big enough, and they were missing out. So we kind of broadened our mission just a little bit to reach those kids as well. And we're in talks now to continue to grow that to where we're serving after school as well. Yes, sir.
When I was a kid, or smaller kid, I thought when we wanted a book to read, we'd go down to the local library and check a book out or read it there in the library. Has that changed?
So great question, and I'm sure everyone heard the question, has that changed? Well, technology's changed. So a lot of things have gone digital. So our library system is a little bit different, but I'll put you in a different frame of mind. My daughters go to the library every day. We leave with 40 books, okay? The library, easy access right down the street. Mom is active and engaged, drives them to it, keeps up. A lot of the kids that we serve, they don't have those resources. Our library system is definitely in need in some areas, staffing wise, hours wise. And to top it off, we start thinking of that walk. See, one of the stories I didn't share was another calling that I had in the beginning was when I heard this young man tell me that he has to carry a weapon. He has to carry a weapon because he walks by this drug house every day. And he doesn't know if this is the day that they're going to attack him. And so I started learning that it was a win for some kids in our community to get from their homes to a safe space called school. And then once they enjoyed that safe time, they got to face that same obstacle again to get from that safe space of school back home. So I love your example because it is true and there are options, but not every kid has access. And so we take that to them in their safe space of a school. Yes, sir.
You mentioned 250,000 books. In what period of time did you get those out?
We did it in 3 weeks.
Wow.
So that's just in 1 year?
Yes, sir.
You did,
3 weeks.
so, and that's,
So we're a little over 50, it was about 52,000 students, each getting 3 books in K through 5, and then other organizations that we partner.
and how do you figure out what book is gonna match up for the kid? Because there's
Right.
nothing quite as personal
Right.
as a book.
So we have a great partnership with Scholastic. They are a major partner with books, and we make sure that each school and each location has the grade appropriate literary works for the kids to choose from. They have a database that really shows where the likes are and dislikes are for the kids. And I can tell you one of the biggest books at Finnegan was a history book on one of the world wars. Because I looked at some of those pieces saying, no, the kids aren't gonna choose this. They did. And a lot of our literacy, when we talk about the cultural experience, these kids are opening up books and seeing characters that look like them. So they may not be familiar with the author or even the book title, but when they open up and see a page and it's like, oh, I can relate to this character. I want to take it home and read it. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to commend you and your organization. I volunteer with the USA and I've done some of the book fairs. And it really is like the book fairs that our kids have. They go and they buy books. But in this case, the books are set up like a book fair and the teacher usually accompanies the class. They come in and they say, okay, you can pick 3 books. And so the child picks a book that they love. They may pick a book that the teacher encourages them to pick, like something that they're covering in the classroom, and or maybe a stretch book. So I've seen it in action, and the teachers are there to help guide them in making their selection, and they really, really do enjoy being able to pick up this book.
I'll start first time.
Councilman, it might be good if you could just give us a quick definition of what Title I is and what it means to be a Title I school and how that definition might be changing over time.
So I don't have the specific definition, so I'll give you the Terrance definition. It is those that are living below the poverty line. And Duval County, we have one of the largest urban school systems in the state. And there were 81 out of the 102 schools, Title I schools here in Duval County. 37,000 students in our system.
So to be a Title I school, do you have to have a majority of your students in Title I or just a certain percentage, or do you know?
I do not know that offhand. I do not know it offhand, but that was the mission while we started with Scholastics and their business model, and it makes sense. Realizing they didn't make money in those schools, so they stopped offering book fairs to Title I schools, and so there was a gap, and so we stepped in to fill that gap.
You may or may not know that this club for a long time has been issuing dictionaries to elementary schools. They fifth graders primarily. Third graders. It's been a while since I've done it. I thought we were doing 5th grade, but anyway, the times that I have been, it amazed me that the kids were so excited when we said, this is yours, start by putting your name in it. So that, I think that ownership piece beats the library where you got to take it back. It's still yours. And so did I hear you say that you would like to have groups to help you distribute books in that way?
Yes, when she talked about the volunteering efforts, that is our model where we partner with organizations. So they'll come in and for their office, their mission, they'll send their staff out, and we usually put 3 in a location. They go in rotations, and they just monitor the kids coming through. But it's life changing. I'm telling you, if you haven't had an opportunity to do it, please sign up for it. It will change how you view some things. And then our peer-to-peer program, but it's the exact same motion. I mean, I don't care how bad of a day I'm having when I wake up. The minute I walk in there and I see that change taking place in that student's life, in both of their lives, it's impactful. And I've raised money now just based off of sharing that story of our teens with people hearing it.
I'm really good with computers and websites. So could you give us your website?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I brought some cards. You can find us at readusainc.com, readusainc.com. And then please sign up, subscribe. We have weekly newsletters, and this will be in it next week. If I can snap a photo while I'm standing up here, pretend like I'm important. But we have weekly newsletters that go out, and perfect and to share the story. And I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge my former colleague, Greg Anderson, former council president as well, who one day I looked to God willing to ascend to that seat. And if anyone ever asks you, and I'll sit down, what does this young man stand for? Well, I'm going to stand on the side of right. But I believe that a lot of our issues in our community will be fixed over time if we can really put our focus on ensuring that the quality of life for our kids and for our seniors is of such that it keeps our community safe, keeps jobs and infrastructure safe, and brings jobs to our community. So thank you all for your time, and would love to meet with anyone if they'd like to talk more about it.
We have heard a lot of things about literacy and how we can help and what children need over the years. I don't think that we have ever heard a presentation as moving as yours. Thank you so much. And we are making a small donation, Terrance, in your name, to Rotary Charities.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you.
Next week, our speaker will be, as Haley Mills used to say, somebody who is scathingly brilliant, which means a lot of different things. As we end our meeting, please join me in the Rotary motto.
Service above self, one office knows who serves best.